How I visualise and envision is a slightly mixed bag. I heard a story recently for the second time and it impacted me in a very different way than the first time I heard it. And I wanted to share it with you. And while sharing it, I thought I'd make the dinner. I hope that's okay. A poor boy had to go out and fetch wood on a sled. After he had gathered it together and loaded it, he didn't want to go straight home because he was frozen. Instead, he wanted to make a fire and warm himself a little first. So he scraped the snow away, and while he was thus clearing the ground, he found a small golden key. Now he believed that where there was a key, there must also be a lock. So he dug in the ground and found a little iron chest. If only the key fits, he thought. Certainly there are valuable things in the chest. He looked, but there was no keyhole. Finally he found one, but so small that it could scarcely be seen. He tried the key, and fortunately it fitted. Then he turned it once. And now we must wait until he has finished unlocking it and has opened the lid, and then we shall find out what kind of wonderful things there were in the little chest. When I heard this the first time, I kind of thought, what? That's it? And then this time when I heard it, it had a whole different meaning to me. The thing that I thought most when I heard this was how tiny everything was. The golden key that he found was tiny. And then he searched and he found a small little chest. He searched for the keyhole and that was so tiny he couldn't even see it. And then when he opened the chest, there was a sort of an unknown as to what was going to happen next. And I think that's a lot how I envision and visualise. I expect it to be this sort of grand event. That thing that I dream about, let's say, posting videos on a YouTube channel. I expected it to look completely different than it actually does in reality. This is a feeling I used to get a lot when I was doing my training in healing. I would want something, and then when it came, not only could I not recognise it, I might also almost reject it. So in a way, the tinier it was, the better, so that I could assimilate it and take it in and figure out the next tiny step and recognise that when I saw it, or not get too scared by it at least. I think things don't look like we envision them, partly because it's very hard to envision something when you don't know what it's going to look like. It's new. I think it's possible to feel the essence of something and then follow along next step after next step after next step. The tiny keys in the tiny locks in the tiny chests. And then open the lid and not actually know what's going to come next. Imagine there must be treasures, but not really entirely know what those treasures are. When I published my first video, I felt absolutely awful. I tortured myself. Who are you kidding? I think was what I said to myself over and over most. The fear was physical. I had to push through it. And my friend gave me a lifeline, of course. It's true that it's futile to try and do anything alone, isn't it? She said publish it and forget it. And that's what I did. I published it and walked away. And when I came back a few hours later, a good few hours later, maybe next day, there were actually quite a few views on it. I was very impressed. I was really happy about that. That same friend actually was moving house around the same time. The house purchase was a long and painful process, and most of the time she didn't know if it would happen at all. It did happen, and then she had to move, all in one day, I think. There was radio silence from her for a couple of days, and afterwards she told me the first night she actually spent it lying in bed in her Ugg boots, because this happened to be the coldest night we've had this year and the heating was broken in her new house. I don't think she slept a wink, but the results were the same. Like the little boy in the story, he still got to open the chest. I still published my video. My friend still moved house. It just didn't look like we imagined, but the essence that we carried, without knowing exactly how it looked, got us there. And we took tiny steps with tiny golden keys and tiny little lock holes along the way. I mentioned already that that's how it always was for me with healing and personal development. A tiny little change, like a thief in the night, would creep up on me, and I realised that I hadn't reacted in the same way to a situation that I would have reacted before. All very understated, all very subtle, all very yin, not so dramatically yang. Sometimes when you get what you want, you can almost nearly miss it, because it's unrecognisable from what you imagined. It's turning out that this is one thing that doesn't seem to change as you get older and hopefully mature. Life still calls the shots. And, you know, that's okay. Luckily. Because if it wasn't, I think there's pretty much nothing we could do about it anyway.